the network of meaning or the web of meaning of the Quran. And that is a basic logic of that book. The words are not defined by al-hadd wal-rasm, by the essence and the Greek sense of definition. The words don't have an essence in the Quran. The words have relationships. And based on the relationships in a network logic or in a logic of webs, you start to think about relationships. And that is something that is methodologically different from starting by defining something according to its linguistic roots, and you look at, no, this is, yes, we have a tradition of that, but that's not how the Quran defines things. The Quran defines things by connecting the meanings in different surahs and different concepts, so that the meanings start to emerge. The composite picture or the holistic framework starts to appear. And now we have a Quranic picture. Revelation is a concept, and every concept, as we will discuss, has to be read in the revelation. Any concept that is not in the Wahy is not exactly an Islamic concept. It is a concept that Muslims might invent, and therefore the criteria of judging this concept is according to the Quranic and the prophetic concepts. Or another invention coming out of a particular philosophy, and therefore we have to have a dialogue between that concept and the Quranic concept. Democracy, human rights, it's all fine and good and nice, but they are not Quranic concepts. And here in the methodology, we have to train ourselves to ground ourselves in the Quranic and prophetic concepts before we look at other concepts. Therefore, what is al-Wahy? Al-Wahy is not just the Quran, it's the Quran and the Sunnah. And many people who have some issues with some of the narrations and so on, they go and reject the whole Sunnah. We'll discuss that when we discuss lection number 9, was it, or 8, about Hadith and so on, as we outlined. But the Al-Wahy is the Quran and the illustration of the Quran, Bayan al-Quran. Please.
Professor, how are you going to reconcile between all the various concepts? Why? Because every science has an objective and has a particular concept. From a language point of view, that's a concept. From a urfi customary point of view, that's a particular outcome. Exactly also when it comes to usul of fiqh and fiqh, where the objective and goal is to give clarity on a fiqh paradigm. So I don't know, the concern is, if a person just going to look at the higher objective, which is 100% correct, but then from what angle? Why? Because of the necessity of the problem. For example, hadith of beloved Rasulullah, if a person fasts, and Muhammad says, then you have to respond if somebody invites you, and you have to respond to the invitation. So if you fast, then Muhammad says, فَلْ يُصَلِّ, salah. So that word salah, from a language point of view, so which one take preference? I understand. So from a language point of view, it means dua. From a legal point of view, it means you have to perform a proper structural salah, takbir al-ihram, and so on. So in terms of, so we have a methodology. So if a person just look at the higher objective without understanding the methodology from a Shari'i perspective, from a usuli, then you will come to a wrong verdict and judgment, because it's a particular process in terms of the language, in terms of the urf, in terms of the sharia, and the various qawaid. If there is no qarina yusrifuha, give support to the language, then we take the sharia. And if you give support to the language, you give preference to that. So how do we reconcile with the methodology of the maqasidi without ignoring the urf, the language, the sharia, and so on?
Well, the answer to your question is the whole course. That's the course on methodology, which is the how. How can you do that? I'll just comment on a few things. One of them is the importance of the differentiation between Sharia and fiqh. Because Sharia is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in the Quran and what the Prophet ﷺ had done bayan or illustration.
Wrote
to do with the understanding of the Sharia in the time. It's not necessarily wrong, but it could be changeable. So the Shari'i perspective, we should differentiate between الثوابت والمتغيرات, the fixed matters and the changeable variable matters. So that's one comment. The other comment has to do with how can you look at the concepts from a different perspective. That is going to require some training, because we are trained in the fiqh tradition through a system of logic that is largely Greek, really, largely syllogistic, and that has some implication on ijtihad. When we get into ijtihad, and there's a whole lecture on that. If you define, it's the Quran and Sunnah that everybody refers to, but there is a difference between reading the Quran and Sunnah according to al-aam wal-khas wal-mutlaq wal-muqayyad and so forth. This is Aristotle. The general and the specific and the absolute and whatever and والواضح وغير الواضح وأقسام الواضح والمحكم والنص والظاهر. This is Aristotle. Now, it's not wrong, but it is. In today's world, you really, first of all, cannot go binary. There is درجات من الوضوح والإطلاق والعموم. There are different levels of generality in the expression, and different levels of absolutism and so forth. There are things that are black and white. The issues of aqidah and the ثوابت الأحكام. There are issues of black and white. But if you're going to do ijtihad for today, you really cannot afford to go Greek in terms of your logic. I'm talking about the logic particularly. And this is a graduate class. This is not a khutbah. I'm not going to say this in a khutbah. Because, oh no, Imam Shafi'i was not Greek. He did not even read. No, but there are research now that, no, the usul al-fiqh, from the beginning, from Imam Shafi'i, there is, at least he was influenced by that. And we have now some narrations that he knew how to read the books of philosophy. And I'm not saying that this is wrong or this, no, this, again, it's not right and wrong. It's methodology. It's how you approach. Because if you're going to go عام وخاص ومطلق ومقيد, if you're going to go binary, you will end up in many cases falling in الترجيح or in nasakh. You're going to either have to nullify what you think are contradictory. Because, you see, the Ahnaf and the Shafi'iyyas debate over al-aam wal-khas. They ended up not being able to reconcile al-aam wal-khas in a particular way. If you read through a holistic logic, which is what we are going to be discussing over the next 9 lectures, you're not going to classify al-aam wal-khas like that, the general and the specific, because it is not a definite linguistic category that you put the word in. It is actually how you apply the word. So a sariq, they have differences. What is a sariq and this and that is not going to be, the debate is going to change. So I'm just giving you a heads up that what's coming, inshallah, hopefully you find interesting. But I totally agree with you that, of course, we are in a framework of Sharia. This is discussing Sharia, but we're discussing the thought by which we can apply the Sharia in today's time. Because today's planet is a very different planet indeed. And it is not possible to really bring the same old methodology to today's planet. Because it's not going to work. It's going to marginalize Islam. We'll make Islam irrelevant to economics and environmental studies and literature and stuff. And the solution is not to go as the modernists had done, which is now the Wasatiyya school, and embrace the values of Western civilization, and then have a problem with the West somehow politically. But you are Western in your institutions and your approach and your banks and your industry that you call Islamic. So we're going to discuss some tough questions, inshallah, but hopefully this will be طيب. Now, I'll move on. Now, this is a methodology that is trying to outline a complete method of Islamic scholarship of all kinds and at all levels. And we're not going to discuss all levels of scholarship and all disciplines and all of that, but we will discuss the core of the approach itself, the composite framework, التصور المركب. How can you do تصور? How can you approach to the framework of what you are defining? Discuss fiqh and sharia. Methodological objectives are going to be our core operation here, which we will discuss, inshallah, in 3 lectures from now in detail, but today I'm going to give you a hint. The Quran has objectives, and the Sunnah, Sallallahu is explaining these objectives. There are 2 kinds, if you wish, of objectives. There are objectives related to methodology, and there are objectives related to the Sharia. Objectives related to methodology are objectives by which the Quran is trying to, or is attempting or intending to be accurate, intending to achieve particular goals on the methodology level. We mentioned concepts. The Quran aims at rectifying concepts and defining concepts. That is a methodological objective. So when you talk about the Quranic concepts, you are under the objective of defining concepts. And if your concept is wrong, it will define it for you. If you don't understand good and evil properly, the Quran will tell you, well, this is good and this is evil.